everything is working. That's quite scary. So I hope that the Jake and John, they will enter. I think right now, I hope I see them if they enter. It seems like everything is working. Okay, so I just close this. Okay, just a question. So are you able just to speak out loud, to unmute yourself and to ask a question?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It works. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
now.
So I just say if Jake and John appear and I don't see them here in this crazy bunch of people, it's amazing to see so many people. I think they just can appear. So just put in the Zoom chat where you are from. And maybe if you have some burning questions, you can also put them there or on the mural board, like I already told you. So I'm really excited, and maybe yeah, there is. I will share my screen later on. I just have this view right now to just have these networking feeling characters. So when Jake and John will appear, we will start making just the speaker view, and I will also, to introduce them, I prepared a bit and I will share my screen then as well. So to have a bit more of focus to them. But until now, we will just leave that open to create this networking feeling. And in the end, so they will be here from 7 to 8. And in the end, we will have another 15 minutes just to network again. And I see already some pictures which you took from the these background, the Zoom backgrounds. It's nice to see them here. So there's also the bike. This is here in our studio. Very wonderful. Nice to see that. So let me just have an eye on my phone that I don't miss the guys. Just in case that there's a problem. I just told them to phone me, but they have I think another meeting, so it should be ready at 7. So I think they will be joining us soon. Anyway, I just take a deep breath. We can take all a deep breath just to relax. I think you don't have to relax, but I have to relax. Yeah, because I'm really excited about this huge chance. So I also prepared. I think if you go to the mural, there is also the link to the remote Designsprint guidelines, which Jake and John gathered. And what I really love about that, and I think that's also one of the reasons I invited them, is because they just opened up to the whole community and they asked the community, what are your experiences right now? And it's so humble, and not to pretend we are the experts in remote, but they just said we are the experts in Designsprint, but not in the remote version. So please share your experiences with us. And I think that's a wonderful approach. And they gathered a lot of information from more than 100 people. And so that's amazing to have these guidelines. And today I want to ask a lot of questions. So I already gathered a lot of questions, and I see that you already have questions as well. So that will be very exciting to see. So
Sabrina,
yes.
may I ask, some of the people might have the microphones on because there is some extra noise on the headphones. So Can you please
Okay, so
close
I
your
can
microphone?
handle that. I can handle that.
I cannot see the guidelines in the mirror.
So sorry, I just interrupted you. You can just type in all your questions into the Zoom chat.
No, I was just saying I cannot find the guidelines in the mural.
In the mural. Yeah.
Saying there was the guidelines.
Where are the speakers? So they are there. Where are the speakers as well?
Ah, okay.
So I leave it open now that you can unmute yourself, but when Jake and John will arrive, I will just delete that. Yeah, we are waiting for Godot. We are waiting for Jake and John that they arrive. So I think.
John just wrote he will be back in 3 minutes in the chat.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, he was already there. So. Okay, so we have 3 minutes again. That's fine. So what about the questions? Do you think you are able to help me with just making, let's say, some structure, to put some structure there? I see that there are now different colors. I see that there are as well categories. So just category name. I think you can just work on that. So that would be great. And if there are new questions, I think that's not a bad idea, just to put the category names in the middle. If there are new questions, you can just continue below the category. That's wonderful. It seems like having a design sprint. That's great. Still waiting. Yeah.
Oh, all the categories move to the bottom?
I don't know. Yeah, that's. Yeah, if a lot of people working there, I think there are now a lot of people here on the board.
Sabrina, John is already online again.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Great.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Jake will be here soon.
That's nice. Okay. We already started with the mural. So we are working already on a lot of questions for you on the mural. And people are now just categorizing the questions. And I have to admit that I already prepared some questions for you. So we will have a lot to talk about. That will be great. So how do you feel today?
Today, I feel good. It's a good day. It's the beginning of summer in Wisconsin, where I live in the United States. It's a beautiful day. And yeah, I'm excited. I just came from another similar type of meetup like this. So it's these things always make me feel really excited, really good, because it's cool to be chatting with other people who have the same kind of philosophies about work and are willing to do things a bit differently and make changes to the defaults of how they spend time. So all good.
Wonderful. So maybe I start now because I prepared an introduction about you. So maybe Jake can just watch that later on, because we will live stream now on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And we will record the session. I think that's very clear. So
I'm right here, so I can watch it now too.
Hi Jake, nice to see
everybody.
you again. Wonderful from both of you that you make the time, that you make time to be here.
Good product placement. Bye, make time.
That you make time to be here. Yeah. So Thank you. Thanks a lot. And to be honest, I already prepared an introduction for you, for all of us, for all the three of us. So I just will start and I will share my screen. So until now, we just made everyone, the whole gallery, that you can see all the people. But now we will go to the speaker view. But still, there are all these amazing people here. So we have now more than 230 participants, and you know that I think over 400 signed up, 450. So that's really amazing. And we have a mural where we network. And maybe is there, if there's someone who just, I see Jeroen, thank you again. He just shared the link again for everyone who is new. So there is also a lot of information about you guys. So let me share my screen and I will just walk you through a bunch of I have some of the murals here open because I have also a script, I have to admit, because I'm too nervous, to be honest, to just make everything just from my memories. So, okay, I would like to share my screen now and share with you what I just prepared as an introduction. So I would like to start with a personal story. So I have the background as a designer and I'm running my design agency since more than 25 years now. I started right after university. And I guess like many others, I experienced the change of design, let's say of the change in the design industry. And I thought there must be more beyond design, at least the German way to interpret design. It's different from the American or English version. And I started with agile approach for digital projects in 2018. And I read about the Designsprint twice until I've got hooked. But as soon as I tried it, and that time with the Sprint book and with some HN Smart videos, it was like puzzles, pieces of puzzles fell to the right space, and the process made so much sense for me. But for me, the shift was that it was not me anymore being responsible for the great ideas and the concepts, but now I had a method to enable a group of people to create these ideas and in a much more effective and holistic way. And then, yeah, to test it with users, that was also, let's say, it's still new for a lot of companies, especially here in Germany. So that really changed my life and the life of my family as well. So right after that, I followed the both of you. And Jake, I get to know personally in a deep dive in the Swiss Alps. That was really amazing. And from a workshop on the boat in Paris as well. And thanks again, Steph, for organizing this. I think maybe he's also around here. And these were great milestones for me. And John, I followed you from a distance with your blog posts and articles on Medium and about your traveling with your wife and your cats on the boat. And then when you get settled again in Milwaukee, again, I just saw you making workshops and talking about design sprints, having keynotes, and you're really active on social media as well. You post a lot of articles, so very, very wonderful. Also about the making time, giving tips. And just to shout out some very impressive facts about the both of you, to introduce you to the Stuttgart community, because not everyone knows you here. I think a lot of people here in the audience know you, but still there are a lot of people they should know you. So Jake, you spent 10 years at Google and Google Ventures when you created the Designsprint process. You coached team and at places like Slack, Lego, IDEO, and NASA on design strategy and time management. And you have been a guest instructor at the MIT and Harvard Business School. And John, besides as well creating the Designsprint at Google, you were a designer for technology companies for nearly 15 years, and you worked for the world's most important and innovative organizations, including Google, Harvard University, Slack, IDEO, and Netflix. Now you are really a very experienced technology designer, keynote speaker, and best-selling author. And like I already mentioned, so you are both together the authors of these two books, which I really love, and I think all in the community love them, and I use them very often as a gift. And when I asked you to join the Designsprint meetup here, it was because of our current COVID situation, the pressure to work remotely, and your brilliant guidelines for remote design sprints, and how you impressed me with your humble approach not to be the experts in the remote version of the design sprint. And you asked the whole community and gathered a bunch of tips and tricks, and you combined that and you evaluated it with your approach and your, let's say, philosophy about how you develop the design sprint. And I think that's a really, it's a huge list and with a lot of useful materials. And thanks for that. And you can also find the link to that on the mural board. And maybe, maybe a last annotation. So we gathered also feedback, and you want to gather feedback and experiences from other people in the community. And I think we all together have a steep learning curve. So this is where you see the boat here. So we are all in the same boat. I think that's a good analogy. We are all having huge learnings right now, and I think it's great to just be very open and not to pretend we know everything, but we learn every day. And this is what we are here to share. And I want to give you the word now. Maybe Jake, you want to start? What is your biggest learning since you published the guidelines, and maybe also what are you most proud of? So where do you get the most or the best feedback from?
Do you mean what have I learned since we published the remote sprint guidelines, or just, yeah, okay.
Well, if you like to talk about the Designsprint book, you can also talk about that.
Sure. Yeah.
Changed my life. So.
Oh, well, what a kind introduction. First of all, thank you so much, Sabrina, for having us, for introducing us so warmly. And thank you everyone for taking time out of what I'm sure, I don't know if your days are anything like mine. This is probably pretty nuts right now. So thank you for taking the time or making the time, as might be, to be here with us. Well, so yeah, so the remote sprint guidelines, as you mentioned, Sabrina, I mean, John and I, quite honestly, are not experts on remote sprints. We haven't done it hardly at all. We've done maybe a couple we'd done one at Google Ventures like 4 years ago or something, and it was just like a totally different world in terms of technology and, you know, pandemics and things. So we really felt like, God, we don't know how to do this, but it seems like it'd be useful to folks. And the cool thing is now, I mean, here we are talking, it makes us sound like we're the experts, but we did sort of solicit stuff from folks all around the world and got really tons of great tips from people. But what was, I think, really interesting is last week, Jay-Z invited me to a one-day, we do a thing called an opportunity sprint, which is something that we have done a few times and are working on we will come out with a guide for that. But right now we're just kind of doing them for hire and kind of getting some practice in. So Jay-Z invited me, I call him Jay-Z, so don't expect that all of a sudden you're going to see the hip hop star. Jay-Z invited me to an opportunity sprint that he was doing. And we got to this was my first experience post the guide, trying to actually put those things into practice. And, you know, what are the biggest learnings? Well, one thing that I learned from that experience, and I'd be curious to hear what Jay-Z says about it. This would probably be a good topic, maybe for us to spend a little time on, but Sabrina, up to you, what it's like really doing this stuff over video, for doing it virtually. One of the big learnings was, I guess there's three things I'll call out right away. One is it was less hard than I thought it would be to move through the schedule. And a lot of that was due to Jay-Z had set up a really nice template for us, kind of inspired by the template we got from Steph for the, and I don't know if Steph's on here, if you can wave or whatever, but Stefan Cruchon made a really sweet Designsprint template for us in Mural and in Miro that we could put into the guide. And kind of in a similar way that he had set it up, where everything is kind of in its own column. Jay-Z created one for our opportunity sprint, which follows a similar sprint structure, just happens faster. It's kind of an activity you do before you do a design sprint to decide what you should sprint on. And so that structure, there's some nice things about leading a team through a structure online. Sometimes it's easier to facilitate, but it's also much more tiring. And I found I wasn't as tired at the time, but that I was super wiped out after the sprint was over. So that was another kind of learning. Like, wow, like the energy required is significant. It was very hard to keep a read on everybody in the room, you know, and like, how's everybody doing? There's a lot of vibe you can pick up on when you're actually in the physical space with people. And there's a lot of goodness that comes from being in the physical space with people that you can't get. I didn't feel like I'd connected as much with the folks in the room after the sprint was over as I did, you know, in one day being together in the same place. And another, this last one I'll throw out there is that the structure of Mural and Miro, I am not 100% sold on that being the right way to facilitate design sprints online, or just facilitate online in general. I'm not saying it's not, it might be, but this metaphor of like the infinite scrolling space, which I think to those of us who are designers, makes a lot of sense to me from like the old school. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like Adobe Illustrator, you know, or like, I mean, kind of like Photoshop or whatever, but, or maybe it's like, you know, it's like Figma, or it's like these other tools that we're used to for creating stuff, but you throw a bunch of people in there who don't live their lives in those kinds of digital tools. And I'm just not sure it is I'm not sure it's right. And for what we want to do in a sprint, which is to lead people through a sequence of very like, you know, you're bracketed on this one thing right now, and you're really focused on doing this one thing in this one way and clear away a lot of, you know, complexity and just let you focus on solving this one piece of the problem so we can move on to the next step. There's some real trickiness with the kind of chaotic nature of this infinite scrolling, like kind of design space. It doesn't feel familiar to people yet, at least. And I'm not totally sold. So you know, John and I have been talking about, well, how will we do that next time? Should we experiment with something else? And I don't have an answer yet, but those are just some of my quick observations of trying to take my own medicine and trying to use our guide. What about you, John? Did you have any like thoughts on the remote sprint guide, having lived with it?
The piece of advice that is in the guide that I didn't fully appreciate until, like you said, we ran a sprint recently using that advice, was how important it is to prepare in advance. As many of you know, the context in which we came up with the design sprint, sort of the version of it that's in the book, is that we were at Google Ventures. Jake had invented the process earlier and had been running sprints at Google, but then you know, we kind of did a ton of sprints together. We did like 150 sprints together as we went through this process of refining it and tweaking the process and expanding it and evolving it. And we kind of engineered the process to not require like any pre-work. And people never believe us when we say that, but it's true. Like we would have like maybe one call, maybe two calls with the team that we were going to do a sprint with, but that was it. Like we would just show up on Monday morning and we would literally be like, all right, what are we doing? Like, what is this week about? What is this sprint about? What's the big challenge or problem that's on your minds? And so, you know, when we started putting together the remote design sprint, everybody said, you got to do tons of pre-work. You got like, in fact, there's one quote, I forget who it's from, but it's in the guide. The hardest week of the remote design sprint is the week before the sprint, because you got to do all this work. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense. Like I trust these people, but I'll be honest, I was like a little skeptical that was true. I was wrong. It's totally true. This was just a one day. It was an opportunity sprint that Jake and I did last week. And I spent like I probably spent 2 full days preparing for a 1-day workshop, the 1-day sprint. And most of that time was making the template. So, you know, if I could reuse it, I would not have to remake that. But still, just, you know, like thinking through not only sort of the golden path, not just the best case scenario, but thinking about all the worst case scenarios, all the things that can go wrong in a remote design sprint. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of time to prepare. So that was a big one for me. But overall, you know, I think that the general feeling that I came away from the day with was, wow, that worked. Like, still works. Like, different tools, different technology, different environment, different feel. But if you can take the things that are invisible in people's brains, make them visible. If you can structure conversations, if you can give everybody an opportunity to capture their ideas in a concrete, shareable way, good stuff's going to happen. Magic is going to happen. And so it was really cool, really exciting and reassuring to see that happen firsthand in a remote sprint.
Wonderful. I think so. I'm already hooked with a remote design sprint. I started 2018 with the first GVDS from Rob Scrope. He organized that, and still, so we had the last week from the 4th GVDS. So I think there is a lot of good into that, but like you said, huge preparation. And what I found out, so let's say maybe just 2 things to reflect about. One thing is that in a normal design sprint, you have to minimize discussions just to keep the speed and the momentum. But in a remote design sprint, you have to, let's say, you have to guide a conversation. I think that's crucial also to start this connection, to get people connected, and also to see, yeah, if they are still there on the right path, if they didn't get lost, and also that they can just think out loud. And I think that's the tool maybe in the remote version to get connected and to make an impact, that we have this conversation. And the other thing is that I realized that these differences between a 4-day and a 5-day design sprint, they don't exist anymore like that, like before. So that's my feeling, because I think we need more time instead of less time. It should be less time, but it's still, if you want to get the people aligned, and I think that's the most important thing there, you need the time, and sometimes you just have to expand it a bit. And I think, so for me, it's a bit fluent, because you have not anymore these like 1 day, you have everyone in the whole day in the room, or 3 days in a row, but it's more like you have some hours here, some hours there, depends on the time zone. So I think these limitation, these borders, they get a bit equalized. So that's my feeling.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, this ability, or perhaps even temptation, to not run the sprint as a continuous series of days, because you can kind of split it up and piece it together. And I definitely still think there's some magic that happens when you do it in consecutive days or consecutive blocks of time. And a lot of that has to do with just short-term memory, and just, the benefits of helping people get into that flow state and get into that state where they're really focused on that problem and on solutions to that problem. I think that having the virtual whiteboard makes it easier to jump back in. It's not like you have to leave the sprint room behind and worry about people taking stuff down or whatever. But I think that part of what makes the design sprint work so well is just that you're giving people the opportunity to focus. That you're creating space. You're giving them the ability to spend time focused on their biggest problem, the biggest challenge. And so I think that it's important to maintain that as much as possible in a remote sprint. Sure, take advantage of the flexibility that you get because you don't have to be in the same place. But I think as much as possible, I would try to keep it kind of, in back-to-back days or back-to-back sessions. But Jake, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
Should unmute to share my thoughts. So yeah, I think that I don't have anything super sophisticated to say about it because we still haven't done, I still haven't done a lot over remote, but there's definitely one of the magic ingredients in the design sprint we found was consecutive work days on the same problem, because you're not rebooting all the time and you're not getting distracted and fragmented. And you got to do everything you can to preserve that, to not break the chain. And every time you break the chain, if you go away over the weekend and then you resume the next week, it's hard. The resuming is going to take extra work. And if you break the chain twice, then I think it's a great challenge to break the chain twice and come back. You got to have a group that's really motivated and willing to do that. Monday, the first day of a sprint always involves this kind of like, let's rehash things that we maybe already talked about, but we got to rehash them. And it doesn't feel good. If you facilitate the sprint, you will know the first day of the sprint, it doesn't really feel that great. Like before you get into solving the problem, it's like, oh God, like really? We're just having like the worst meeting ever. It's really long and we're rehashing stuff we've already talked about. Can you feel that way at the beginning? You kind of have to like Groundhog Day, relive that every time you break the sprint. You've got to come back into it. And to do it effectively, you'll have to spend a bit of time kind of going back and waking up your brain to all that stuff again. So just because it's painful and hard, I don't want to break the sprint up if possible. I do think that if you look at the 4-day versus 5-day for a design sprint, I haven't done a 5-day sprint, a full sprint, since the guide came out. So this is just me making it up, but I would not want to try 4 days at first with the sprint, because a really tightly packed day like the one that we had in the opportunity sprint was fatiguing. And that second day, I don't know that I would have had the juice to do a really great job, and especially let alone like day 3 and day 4. So I think that pacing things out and using pre-work to hopefully make things shorter, so you're not doing an 8-hour day. If you can, you're not doing a 6-hour. If possible, you're doing like 4 to 5 hour day those first 2 days. Use all of those great techniques that have come out that are on top of the sprint book, like the storyboarding 2.0. Use the note and map from Steph. Like use those AJ and Smart and other hacks on it just to make it so you can do the 5-day and not burn people out too hard, because the video is going to be harder.
Yeah, I think the prep work is key here. So, and I was talking about, let's say, when I talk about the 4 or 5 day and why this just weaves together, is that you have these few days in a row. If it's 5 days, and you have like less hours, or if you have 4 days and you have, let's say, a bit more hours, but it's like more weaving in together. So we have the same, there are the same exercises. And that leads me to my next question, because the map is kind of a scary topic in the community. And to be honest, I like reading maps. I like the map exercise, actually. I also like reading maps when I cycle or walk or drive. So maybe that's just therefore, but for me, that always gives kind of a guideline. And I saw that you made a post in the Slack channel, John, about that you do the map several times. And I think that is really smart. And I try that as well. And for me, that helped to have like something that sticks, and you always can go there. And it's like a guidance. So it's a nice guidance. Maybe you can talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so the map is really, I think, the kind of the focal point of the group's shared understanding for what they're doing, what they're focused on, where the problems are, where the opportunities are, and really in understanding that in a customer-centric way. That's super important, and that's one of the things that the design sprint introduces people to that are not necessarily used to thinking about. People are not used to being customer-centric in how they think about design work or their business or problems or whatever. So making that map in that way is really helpful. So the map is kind of the focal point, and so it makes sense that it has to be something that you come back to again and again. It's got to be big, taking up the ton of space on the whiteboard, or it's got to be kind of the big focal point in the Miro or Miro board or whatever tool you're using. And process-wise, the way that normally works is we will draw the first version of the map, sort of a rough draft of the map, at the end of the morning on Monday, so first day of the sprint, before we've really we've talked to our experts, before we've done a lot of how might we questions, but try to get just a rough draft map, just to understand, like, all right, what is this we're talking about here? How does this work? What's the process that customers go through as they interact with our product or our service or our company? And then it becomes this really great way to capture all of the additional inputs that you're getting from the team. So, you bring in an expert and you're doing Ask the Experts, and you're interviewing those people. And instead of just sort of, nodding your head like, oh, that's interesting, that's great, thank you, you can say, well, where would that fit on the map? Okay, you're telling me that there's this challenge with selling, this certain type of customer. Where does that fit in? And you can actually erase that on the map, and you can drop back in, or, if you're working on a virtual whiteboard, you can edit things, you can drag things around. And then you get to do that again with another expert. As people are capturing their how might we's, it's not just this, nice sort of, question that exists in the universe. It's like, oh, well, why does this how might we matter? How might we make this part better? Well, which part? Oh, it's this part on the map. And you may find that it's not the part that matters most because it's not your target, but it's still interesting to capture. And then, of course, at the end of the day on Monday, you're selecting your targets. You're choosing your target customer. You're choosing your target moment on the map. And so, that's kind of how we touch the map multiple times on Monday. And I think I think that it is a really good place to capture all that input from the team, just because it frames it in a way that is familiar, that is customer-centric, and that really represents the big picture of the project that we're working on.
And I think that also there's no difference between in-person or remote version regarding the map. One question to that. So what I also get as questions, or what I heard, in the map, we are just constructing, let's say, doing these user journeys for an existing situation. But what if the situation doesn't exist, or if the stakeholder doesn't exist yet? What do you have as a tip?
Jake, did you, sorry, we both unmuted at the same time. I was wondering if you were gonna.
No, go ahead. If you have I was gonna attempt to wade my way through it, but I'll say if you have something queued up, go for it.
All right. I'll try to keep it short so that I don't suck up all the bandwidth here. I think that when you don't know exactly what that customer map is going to look like, you don't know what that process is going to look like for your customer, you have to zoom out a little bit. You need to step away in the sense that you need to. Well, all right, let me stop speaking abstractly and be concrete. So if the purpose of your design sprint is to improve the onboarding experience for your app, then you can draw out a map that is, the customer lands on the homepage and they click sign up, and then they get an email that they click and they go back into the app and they complete these steps. It can be very detailed. It can be very zoomed in. It can be very much anchored on the reality of how that product works today. If you are doing a design sprint to, let's say, create a totally new marketing channel. Let's say you think, all right, there's this new customer category out there, and we think that there's an opportunity for our product to help them. So let's work on that. Then you're going to need to zoom out. Your map's going to need to be more like, okay, they hear about it somewhere. And so you might write out some of the different places they hear about it, maybe a news article, maybe a review, maybe an ad that they see. And then you have, okay, they land on the website, right? And so that might just be one step of the map. It's like this box, they land on the website. And then there's another step that's like, they sign up, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's all the detail that you need for that first rough draft of the map. And it's helpful because it still gives you a place, still gives you a framework for choosing where to focus and say, all right, are we focused on the ad that they see and how we kind of explain the product, or are we focused on what happens after they've signed up and started to use it, and we can sketch there. But to me, that's kind of the biggest difference, is when you don't know, when you're not working on something that already exists. I think that the map needs to just be a little bit more general, a little bit more high level.
Makes sense.
In general, I think about it as zoom levels. And like, if you were making like a click by click customer journey of an existing product, you can kind of picture what that would look like. It would capture the things that happen, the screens that you're on and the places where you click and the elements of the thing, like as it exists. But if this was like a map, and you could just like zoom out a bit, and I can't remember which way you zoom things out when you want to make them smaller. I guess like this, you pinch to zoom it out. You'd see moments, you'd stop seeing the individual like components. And when you zoom out, you see moments. And for any map in a design sprint, that's what I want. I want moments. If there's a place where I have to have components in there because there is some hard constraint on this particular component, okay, fine. But that's only like an exception. You have to twist my arm to get me to put a component on a map. I really want to have moments. And that zoom level of moments, like a sequence of moments that should happen, that's kind of the same whether the product exists already or whether it doesn't, because a human is going to go through a sequence of moments, you hope, when they experience your product or service. And once you can hit that zoom level, it probably doesn't really matter too much if it exists already or not. If it already exists, your struggle is going to be to zoom out and get at the moment and not describe the components. And if it doesn't exist at all, you just don't want to get caught up in thinking about what should the components be. So no, we're cool at the moment level.
Great, thank you. I think that's really helpful, and I think there's also not a big difference from in-person or remote sprints. So we have another, let's say, 17 minutes, and we have a lot of questions. So
lightning round. I'm not very good at lightning rounds, by the way, but I always try.
Yeah, right.
So the participants, they are wonderful, amazing. And I just gave them a task to categorize the questions. So I will share my screen with you for a moment, and let's just pick out something, maybe just pick out a category. So I'm not sure. Can you see my screen? Can you read that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So maybe, I think what I love at the first glimpse, failing. It just pops to my eye. So it's just very appealing, because I think failing is that where we can learn the most of right now. Can design sprints be fused with organizational culture? Okay.
Let's say this, everybody who's watching, you get 2 votes. Put your 2 votes on the questions that you'd like us to answer, put little dots on them or something. And oh yeah, or you could actually do a voting session. Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. So so that will help us.
Oh, I gave everyone just 3.
Yeah, 3. Great. 3's easier. 3's better.
And I give you 2 minutes. Yeah, just fast. And we can talk in between, right?
While we're waiting for that, I would very quickly share a sort of a failure. And somebody asked about this in the Design Sprint community the other day, and so I shared it there. So maybe you've already seen it. But I did a sprint. I facilitated a sprint once, this was a few years ago, where at the end of the first day, the team, all of us, there was no conflict, but we all decided that we were sprinting on the wrong thing. That it was totally the wrong project. So we literally, I was actually in Seattle, where Jake lives now, and we had 5 days set aside, and we were going to do a 5-day sprint. End of Monday, we're like, the decider is choosing the target, and he's like, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is the right thing. So we had a big talk, and then we just started over on Tuesday. We just like literally started the sprint over Tuesday morning, and we used what would come to be known as the Design Sprint 2.0, the 4-day process, by combining the first 2 days, or first 3 days across 2 days, essentially. Still did prototype on Thursday, still tested with customers on Friday. But that's a relatively recent one for me. There's a whole bunch of other failures that are in the book, so I won't repeat those. But that's one that even though it was a couple years ago now, it really has stuck with me.
Yeah, nice story. You have also one to share for the next 30 seconds, Jake?
No, let's go to the next one. That's a good example. I'll burn up too much time. I know myself. The book failures are good ones. One thing that I guess I'll just say this. One thing that once we stopped stubbing our toes on the things that we talk about early in the book, the design sprint might fail. Like we might have a really crap, if we follow the steps in the sprint, we might have an outcome that doesn't feel good because customers don't like the prototype, or they don't get it or whatever, but that's not a failure. That we learned something, and it's still much, much better than what would have happened if we hadn't done the design sprint. So I'm actually cocky enough to say, if you run the process as intended, you run it all the way through, you don't skip steps or make up steps too much. You can do that once you practice, but you'll learn something. It's not going to melt down, I don't think. Like if it melts, when I talk to people who've had it melt down since the book came out, and then ask them, well, did you change anything? Was anything different? They'll be like, oh yeah, well, we had like 30 people, or, well, we just did 2 days. Like, well, yeah, like that, then it will break, but it's pretty robust now.
Yeah, I think so as well. So thank you. So now we can see if Mural has a failure, fails or not. So I just can see that 170 people are voting. So, okay, that's crazy. I just stopped now the voting session. So let's see what happens. If there's a result, there is a result. How do you use sprints to lead changes in the organization?
I would say that the simplest way to do this is to run one really good design sprint and build up from there, because it can change it. As John and I crafted this thing, iteration after iteration at Google Ventures, really big on our minds was, how do we help these startup founders create what we think would be a really good culture for building products and for respecting people's opinions and making the best decisions possible so that they'll be as successful as possible. I think a lot of that stuff is baked into the design sprint. So if you can get one going and, let people have a strong experience when they're in that sprint and then spread it from that one, that's a decent way to do it. The people who are in there, we believe, will be affected in the way they think about doing their work and working with their peers and respecting their peers' opinions about things. Once they've been in it, I don't think they can unsee what they've seen in the sprint. That said, it's really nice if you can convince somebody at the top of the organization to ask for experiments with design sprints at a large scale so that the whole company can become exposed to it much more quickly. It's slow to start with one, but yeah, that's my quick thought.
Maybe I can add a question to John here. So if you add into the sprint, let's say a really high level manager, like a CEO or a top level manager, I think maybe then it can be even faster. So the change, but it can help more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more that leadership can be invested in the sprint, the decision to run it in the first place, participating in the actual activities, supporting the outcome, trusting the outcome, the better. That's I think like when I work with companies who want to change the ways that they work, the ways that they spend time together at work, I often talk with them about kind of combining top down with the bottom up, you know, and I think you need both. You know, I think you can do some stuff at the bottom, some grassroots type stuff. You get a team together who's scrappy and tries to do something new, but eventually that can only grow so high. At some point, you need somebody from the top to reach down and you know, help to lift it up. So yeah, I think, you know, it shouldn't be you shouldn't decide to not run a sprint just because you can't get like some senior executive in there. But if you can, it's going to help your chances of making that sprint a big success and leading to changes in that organization longer term.
Fantastic, thank you. So we have another, I think, 3 outstanding questions. They are, what is the future of the design sprint? What's next? Maybe
Well,
short answer from both.
A quick answer is it's the very next thing is figuring out how to do it over video in the best way possible. And I don't think that our guide is like the last word in that. I feel like it's the beta version of that, because we're going to be learning as other people learn and report back to us, and as we try it and get our own visceral first person feel on it. And we're going to see better tools come out. Already you're seeing Mural and Miro like racing to make their tools better, not just for design sprints, obviously, but they have that in mind, I know, and other things. Everything's going to get better. Google Meet and is like racing to catch up with Zoom, and you know, you'll see more and more of that. So there's a lot to do with this new world, and the pandemic is going to cause a permanent shift in how much of this stuff happens over video. So I'm not in a rush to get that figured out, but I think we'll see that in the next year or two. Like we'll see those things kind of shift and better methods come out and tools.
John?
Yeah, I think that for sure. Like we're trying to figure that out as the community is trying to figure it out. We've been talking more and more about this opportunity sprint, which we mentioned earlier, and it's something that we had done a couple of times when we were still at Google Ventures, but we've been doing a bit more recently, and there's a lot of interest in it. So working on that, and then we just started working on a new version of the website. So the sprintbook.com. It's long overdue for an update. And so I think that for me, working on the remote sprint guide was an important lesson about the role that we can play or should play, which is that we don't always have to have all the answers ourselves, and that we can do a better job of sort of learning from the whole community and then acting as the curators of all those things. So the new version of the Sprint website is going to have articles and stories and case studies from the whole community. It's going to have some of the updated techniques and things that aren't in the book. Things like, you know, for example, I saw Steph in the chat. Like Steph has a better way of doing the map, for example, that we teach when we do our boot camps, but isn't really an official part of our website or anything. So pulling that stuff together. So not huge changes to the process itself, but just continuing to do more to try to spread the word and create things that help people change the ways that they work and the ways that they spend time together on their most important projects.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about the design sprint that remains true is that it's very new. It's still a very, very new thing. And it's gotten to the point where it is because, I mean, so the first design sprint, I ran it 10 years ago this year in 2010. The first thing I called a design sprint. And then it changed dramatically from the time that I got to Google Ventures to the time that we wrote the book, because John and I were refining it, codifying it, figuring out how to turn it into this reliable checklist, figuring out how to bring in all the cultural things we wanted to into it and the best, sort of product methods. And we've been spending since then, like a lot of time just trying to get the word out and getting help from folks like you, Sabrina, folks who are on this call. Like it's hard convincing people. You talk about organizational change, it's really hard and it's slow. And actually, I think one of the things that is in the future of design sprints is just continuing to try to tell the same story better, continuing to try to make the same tool better. Because if we leave it too soon and run on to the next shiny thing, we're going to do it a disservice. And I think we're lucky to come across something that helps people this much and is this effective, but it's a hard thing to do. It's a big thing to ask people to take a week out of their time and try this crazy new way of working. And we need to give them better and better tools to make that easy. We need to give them great case studies so they can have confidence that it's going to work. We need to get more and more sophisticated in the way we describe the value of doing it. And I think in many ways we're in the early days of doing that. Even though to people who have been exposed to it already, like folks who are on this call, it doesn't seem new to you. It might seem like old hat, but we still have a long way to go. I think we're still very early in the story of the design sprint.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that's actually also the question, another question which was ranked very high: how to communicate the ROI of a design sprint to the stakeholders. I think, okay, this is, yeah, I think
I'll give a quick answer. I give a quick answer to this. Focus for stakeholders on two things. Almost always, it's two things. 85% of the time, it's we're going to make you a prototype fast, because usually that's the thing they care about. Focus on the thing they care about, not on what you think the return on investment is. If you've been in design sprints, you know how powerful it is for the team to see the test results, to watch customers using the product and to learn and be like, oh my God, we were wrong. They don't think they're going to be wrong before you run the sprint. They just think they want their idea to happen as fast as possible. And guess what? The design sprint actually delivers on that really well. It's going to create a prototype of the most important moment of a fully finished, perfect future version of their product. It's going to create that right now. You can create a simulation of that in 1 week. That's really powerful. The prototype has most of the time been the way I've convinced people or explained to people what the value was, because it's what they already want. The other sort of 15% of the time, the value is alignment. We've got a lot of different teams needing to work together. We got, people who might have political issues. People know that's tough. You say, hey, we do this process. I can give you a way to get those folks aligned, unstuck, from the beginning. This nebulous trying to negotiate thing is over. In a week, everybody's moving in the same direction. I can give you that. Prototype or alignment are usually the best selling points for people.
You want to add something to that, John?
No, that's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Finally.
Let's move
Great.
on. Let's try to hit a couple more questions before we run out of
You
time.
are aligned. We can see.
Yes, exactly.
What are the most important tips you would give to someone conducting design sprint for the first time?
I will share a link in the chat to a post I wrote called the Facilitator's Guide. It's just a bunch of tips that are not in the book. My first tip would be read the book. Second tip would be the process works, don't stress it. And then I'll find this link while Jay-Z adds any other tips that I'm not thinking of.
My top tip is a variation of what Jake said. And this is something that I have personally done. And a lot of the sprints that Jake and I, just as background, a lot of the sprints that Jake and I ran together, he was leading the facilitation and I was helping out. And so then when I got to a point where I was leading my own sprints, I was the sole facilitator. I was like, oh shit, like now I've got to be in charge of this thing instead of just being like the sidekick. And so what I would do is I would literally print out a copy of the checklist. So I would get the PDF of the checklist. It's in the back of the book. And I would write stuff on it and highlight stuff and, no shame. Checklists are powerful for a reason. Checklists work for a reason. I mean, pilots use checklists before they take hundreds of people's lives into the air to fly them safely somewhere. There's a reason that we have checklists, and so there's no reason why you shouldn't use a checklist when you're running a sprint, especially when you're new. But I think it helps you to trust the process. It helps you to say, all right, here's what we're going to do next, and here's why. And for me anyway, it alleviates some of that pressure of having to be right and having to do it right and be the expert in front of the room.
Wonderful. So I think that's how I started as well, with a checklist. So reading the book, watching some videos, and then I took a checklist and started. So I think that's a very good answer. would you have a last, can we ask a last question? Because I have a really good
Sure.
one. I'm not sure where it is here.
Even if it's
And
not
that-
very good, I'll answer another question.
So it's, how would you go forward with a hardware prototype in a remote sprint? So like your Savioki roboter.
If possible, I would not prototype the hardware because that was really hard to do. And we were lucky to have, we were lucky to be able to like slice the moment we were trying to test so that we didn't have to build something with like wires and circuit boards and 3D printing. We have done sprints where we had 3D printing involved and tested physical things because the slice, the moment we were trying to test, involved like the feel and the weight of the thing. But if it's at all possible, you should avoid that and you should try to test what we call in the book a brochure prototype, or I would just say quite simply like test the marketing for the thing. Testing the marketing for the thing is almost always what you should do in almost every design sprint. Like usually the marketing for a new product or a big change in a product is going to be a good way to very efficiently, with a lot of leverage, you test here, the marketing, and you learn so much about the rest of the thing that's going to take so much work to do. But the marketing is the first place people come in, and it's where they form a lot of their opinion about the story of the thing. And I always hate to use Apple as an example because it's so played out and tired, but Apple does such a good job of aligning, seemingly from the outside, aligning their marketing message with where they've spent their effort. And you look at other companies, including companies like Google that John and I have worked at, and a lot of times they build a new hardware product or whatever, and it's like, God, I wonder if they feel like they might have done the marketing at the end. I'm not sure they were thinking about it when they built it. So start with the marketing, and for hardware, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of that before you have to come to the really tricky questions of, do we 3D print it and what, all that stuff. See if you can, everything you can learn before you do that.
And I also think, like when things go back to normal, whenever that happens, whatever that looks like, and let's say, even there's a vaccine, whatever timeline you choose, to sort of define the end of this pandemic or the end of this crisis. Some things will stick, some changes will stick. We will do more remote sprints, we will do more remote meetings, we will do more asynchronous work. But some things will sort of go back, and that's not a bad thing. So things like, prototyping physical products and testing things in person, those things will come back. We will be able to do those things again. And so, I think that one of the opportunities that we have right now is to, certainly to change the ways that we work. And for those of us who are fortunate enough to be healthy and to, have the money and the lifestyle and the businesses to be proactive right now during the crisis, we can, one of the opportunities is to change the ways that we work. But the other opportunity is to take a slightly different perspective on some of our projects. And maybe you can use this time while you're doing remote sprints to be more focused on the marketing, on how, some aspect of the experience, some part of the project, some of the big questions that are more well suited to working remotely. And you can save some of those other questions for when we can do things in person again. So, I don't think that there's a great way to prototype a physical product in a remote design sprint. I would love to be wrong about that. I hope somebody will have an amazing example. But I think that, if possible, take the opportunity to look at your work differently and look at your project differently and figure out if there's a way that you can use the processes and the tools that we're now living with to continue to make progress on whatever that big thing is you're working on.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I just want to make a last question, give you a last question about what you are very happy to do next when the crisis will be over. And I also want to just end with just very, very short what we received, what we could also create as an impact with this meetup here. And I just share my screen very quickly. We did a fundraising via Eventbrite and we got 300 €57, and they will go into a project with refugees in Kampala, where we did Designsprint with, to enable them to work with international companies. So like a coding collective there, very enthusiastic students. So thanks a lot for making this.
Oh, that's cool.
Happen.
Yeah, that's
yes.
cool.
And you see, so we have here a speaker corner. If someone wants to connect with you, have more information, get everything here. And I will ask the community of experienced facilitators to answer all these questions. So maybe we will have a lot of questions here. And now the last question to you. So what will be, you will be happy, or what is the one thing you will happy about when the pandemic is over?
I'm going to get on a plane and go visit Jake.
I took so much for granted.
I hope that works for you, Jake.
It totally does. We recorded this. We have this. Well, John put it together. I give John deserves the credit for pretty much anything ever happening that I actually do. And one of those things is the highlight course, which we made for our book Make Time. And John came to Seattle in, when was that? It was not that long ago. January. It was January.
Late January. It was
late January.
Like, there is a very good chance that that COVID-19 was like circulating in Seattle at that time.
Yeah, I might have had it. I mean, so we were here. We were right where I am. If you joined the highlight course, you just see that chimney right there in the background. And John and I were sitting right here together, and I was like, oh yeah, we're just whatever. Like, it was fun to see him, but I see him all the time. I didn't really think about it. Now I'm like, oh my God, it would be so nice to see. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see John. I can't wait to do like a workshop in person. You know, I know some of you I've met in workshops, and to like just be in person or to be at a conference and speak. I want people. I want to have good friends around for like a good long visit. I want to go see people, just people. I miss people. Yeah. And speaking of people, you know, listen, you guys gave us a lot of time today to listen to us talk. And, but I know that represents like the tip of the iceberg in terms of the time that you've invested in this topic. You know, if you were willing to waste an hour of your time with us today, you've probably been willing to waste a lot more of it, reading the book or doing design sprints, trying to convince people to consider this new way of working. Maybe critically questioning some of our ideas and thinking, were they, you know, could we do better than that? And you know what, maybe you can in many ways. But what's cool, what underlines all of that is that you're investing time in helping other people make their lives more meaningful, making the moments, the effort that they spend at work actually come to something. Because the default way that work gets done in this world is stupid most of the time. And a lot of time and a lot of people's precious human lives, all we have, and this certainly gives us a chance to reflect on how delicate a human life is. A lot of that human lifespan is wasted working on stupid shit and in dumb meetings and arguing about things that don't matter and checking our email and checking it again and checking it another time. And when you spend effort to help people rethink that, and when you're critical about the structures and the ways that things happen, you're having a profound effect, and an effect that multiplies, because the people who are in the room with you, the people who you convince to think differently, they in turn will think differently, and they'll improve upon those ideas and spread them. And so I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for investing effort in it, and for what you've done so far and what you will continue to do in the future. And I can't wait to learn from you and to experience the benefits that'll come from all that effort.
Thanks so much. Crazy. I'm so grateful. I'm so honored that you were here and spent your time with us. And I think we learned a lot. And and I think this is wonderful. So yeah, you made my day.
Well, thank you very much, you guys. This is definitely the highlight of my day, and we'll do something like this again sometime. We'll see y'all soon.
Yeah,
Sure. And you know what we will do right now? So you are free to stay, but I told everyone that we will finish only at 8:15, and I will send now everyone into breakout rooms, because just to have this networking feeling, this meetup feeling that, you know, which we are missing. meeting people, at least having people in a small group and talk to them. So that's what we will do right now. So thanks a lot. And I think we will meet soon. And it would be my wish to come to US and to meet both of you again. And for the first time, John.
I'd recommend you wait a few months.
Sure.
We don't exactly have things under control.
Yeah, not
here,
this year.
but we
not
would love
this
that.
year. Yeah, but soon. Let's say soon in 2021.
Yes. 2021, I think, could be great here, but 2020 is not looking so good.
No, not now.
Thanks again, Sabrina. This is great.
Yeah, thanks Sabrina.
Everybody.
Thank you so much for organizing, y'all.
Yeah, thank both of you.
See
And
ya.
I just will start these sessions right now, so we can be ready at 8:15. And I will start the sessions. That's really funny. There's so many people. There's still, I think, over 200 people here. So let's see with whom you will talk right now. Hi Verena, ich sehe dich. So. Sind alle in breakout sessions? That was amazing. So there are still people here. I don't know.
This is breakout group 61. So
Yeah.
we have 61 people in this call. So
yeah, I don't know how. So I'm just.
Okay, so let's do a wrap up quickly. Everybody mentions his first name and location. No, and
Not too many. We are, I think, 200 people.
And a number of appreciation for this meeting. So I'm Jeroen Frumo, and I think this is a pure 11 on the scale of 10. So thank you very much, Sabrina. Who's next?
Thank you. Who's next?
I'm Cassandra. I'm coming from Denmark, and I really enjoyed today's session. So thank you very much. And it was lovely to see all of you here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Sabrina. I'm from Argentina.
Ah!
And hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. And hi, Katya. Thank you so much for this opportunity, you guys. You are amazing, and I don't know. I just can't speak. So thank you.
Greetings to Argentina.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Hi, everybody. This is Camilo from Utrecht, the Netherlands. Thank you, Sabrina, for organizing the event. And Jeroen, nice to see you again. We were on a previous meetup not that long ago. So nice to say hello, everybody.
Who wants to be next? Just unmute.
Hi there. Okay, this is Hernan, also from Argentina. I know the other Sabrina is saying hi because we're friends, actually. Yeah, I'm from, but I'm living here in Cologne. So yeah, near Stuttgart. So we really would like to visit you in the studio sometimes, or doing an event here in Cologne as well. We'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Hi Sabrina, this is Sachin from India. Thank you for organizing this event, and it's a very wonderful event and very informative people like us who is in starting career of Designsprint. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hi, this is Tony. I am originally from Mexico, but I actually live in the Stuttgart area.
Oh.
So thank you for organizing this.
Next opportunity. Lovely to see so many known people.
I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy, and I'm from Leipzig, Germany. Well, I'm not from there, but I'm living there. Originally, well, was born in Hong Kong, but originally grew up in Canada, Vancouver. And thank you so much, Sabrina. It was amazing.
Hi. Thank you, Sabrina. It was an amazing meetup. It really was.
Samantha, hi.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks.
Was super.
Hi, Sabrina.
Super.
Thank
Nice
you, Sabrina. It was nice to be here. And stay safe, guys. And do more design sprints. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And I hope you can help me with
Bye-bye.
answering
Bye.
all these questions on the board. Please help me.
Yeah, thank you. It was like really a great session.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's really great, Sabrina. Thank you
Hi,
so
Andy.
much. We had a blast.
Thanks.
Oh, Marcus. Hi.
Sabrina, this was really cool. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Great job, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, vielen Dank.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sabrina.
Hi.
Hi, thank you.
So I think we cannot just, everyone cannot speak because we are still a lot of people. And I don't know if everyone is back from the breakout rooms, but yeah, it's amazing. And I will just leave you with stay safe, Designsprint as much as possible. You can network on the mural board, and whoever wants to help me with answering questions, I will prepare something. So I think I will prepare that so that we can just put answers on it. So you can just come back or stay there and start answering. And I think that will also help others. They don't know, or maybe they ask these questions with the next step. And I think that's what we want, why we are here actually. So stay safe and bye. Have a nice week.
Bye, everybody.
Jake.
Bye.
Thank you for
Take
staying.
care.